This is TWiT.
Now, let's talk about the departure, because this is an example of how it's really hard when you've got somebody like Mark Zuckerberg writing giant checks. It can be very challenging to keep up. Zuck has stolen an Apple researcher by writing a really big check, tens of millions of dollars a year. We'd heard this.
I mean, if you're a researcher, I mean, this is your
Why
moment.
not?
This is your moment. And
how did Apple get him? They stole him.
Out.
They stole him from Google by doing the same thing, right?
Just not as big.
Yeah. Roming Pang, who manages Apple's foundation models team, that's pretty important, is going to Meta. He was in charge of a team of 100 employees that work on Apple's large language models. According to Bloomberg, Meta lured Pang with a deal worth tens of millions of dollars per year, which they've also been doing to OpenAI, much to Sam Altman's chagrin, Anthropic, and Scale AI. Scale AI, they basically bought the company. And there's some question about whether Mark got what he paid for when he... Meta bought the company, but Mark got what he paid for when he bought Scale AI.
Meta's willing to do this. I think that the hard part is that the inflation across an entire company, if you can't just go and start talking to everyone that's in your AI and say, hey, how about we increase your pay by 10x or 100x or whatever of what it was before, without having, what about all the other people coding all the other things all over the company, start to feel like suddenly that, there's a morale issue. There's a whole process there that I think is super difficult for most of these companies to kind of to manage inside of that conversation. Meta's decided, they're going to go for it, but I'm not sure if they got
an Apple distinguished engineer, which is, a pretty high level guy. Bloomberg says the takeaway from Mark Gurman, Pang's departure could be the start of a string of exits from the AFM group, with several engineers telling colleagues they're planning to leave in the near future to go to Meta or elsewhere. It's hard to turn down all that money. Can Apple say, okay, we'll meet that?
I just don't think they can. I don't think they can, because they can. You can do anything once, but you can. But I think that the problem that they have is, again, it opens up all these cans of worms all across the company of all these people working on quote unquote important projects, and how much. They're all getting paid pretty well, but they're going to want a lot more if you start paying people tens of millions of dollars a year.
Yeah. And also remember that the benefits to Apple of this kind of investment aren't nearly as great as they would be to Meta or OpenAI or to anyone who is trying to do AI as a service, or basically running cloud compute AI for endless lines of customers. Apple's really their majority of the focus is always going to be on-device AI. Let's make sure we can sell more iPhones, sell more iPads. If it also means that if these discussions about having some sort of a cloud AI, cloud compute service come to fruition, that's nice too. They have all these wonderful in-house AI chips that they can put into play, but it's always going to be the priority is going to be on-device AI. They're not going to be the company that comes up with the most amazing image generator. They're not going to be the company that creates the next great movie is going to be made using Apple video generative AI. That's not what. So they're not going to get that kind of payback from spending hundreds of millions of dollars on personnel. So unfortunately, that means that they can't really keep these people in a seller's market for labor. You just got to let people go.
Also, I don't know, because they're a black box. I don't know what's going on inside of Apple, and I don't know who these people are. But I find it disingenuous when there are reports about how Apple is behind and how Apple's models aren't good enough. And then there are also reports about, oh no, Apple is losing senior executives who have been in charge of building its models, and that's a brain drain for Apple. Because one of those is probably not true, right? This is the thing. Is this a loss? Is this person wonderful? And the reason that Apple's models aren't up to snuff is because they've been beaten down by the man and haven't executed. Or is it that Apple looks at somebody like, because here's the thing is you might not want to meet the goal of, the offer of somebody like Meta. But I can put it the other way, which is if it's somebody who you don't think is worth it, you don't try to match their offer. You let them walk. And I don't know whether this person is brilliant or not, but I can say this. If one of Apple's issues is that their models haven't been that great, paying lots of money to keep the people who have been building the not great models doesn't make sense. And I think Andy makes a very good point, which is you want a team at Apple who is devoted to building great AI models using Apple's priorities. And I think that's an important way to view this, which is Apple is going to prioritize on-device models. And they're going to prioritize maybe models tuned for developers, right? Like tuned for developers and their developers and to work with Xcode. But like number one is running on an iPhone. That's their number one goal. And if that doesn't appeal to you and you'd rather be dealing with a giant cloud model, then maybe you shouldn't be at Apple. Apple needs talented people to build models for them. But I don't think it's existential necessarily if Apple ends up being a company that builds really good, efficient models that run on its devices, and then it partners with companies that have big open cloud models to do big open world knowledge cloud jobs. I think that is okay. So my point is we can't really know, but I think it's very weird to be in a position where we're lamenting Apple being behind on models and also lamenting that they lost somebody who is key in developing their models. Like, I don't know what the truth is there, but sometimes you let them go because you don't want to pay to keep them.
Yeah.
Gurman's presumption is that morale is sinking at Apple's foundation model team because of this, we're going to look over at Anthropic and ChatGPT. Maybe we'll use their
there are a lot of
models.
possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, morale is low when you lost, right? I mean, morale is low when you lost. And if the perception is that they have to go to an external vendor to get a model because your model's not good enough, I have to say that's probably because your model's not good enough. Otherwise, they would use it. And that I understand morale could be low, but like that's not Craig Federighi's and the rest of the people in that team. It's not their job to hurt Apple's products in order to promote their own fundamentally weak set of models if they believe that they're weak. So like this is again, you don't want an exodus of AI talent, but if the AI talent you've got's not doing the job and it's not because of bad management, then, you need to recast. And there are ways to do that. There are ways to motivate the people in that team and say, look, we are only going to use an external model for Siri in the short term because our model's not up to speed. But that's your challenge, is get it up to speed because we rather this is Apple. We want to use our own model. But right now, for the next year or two, it's not going to be your model, and that's your goal. And that if that demotivates people, then I think so be it. But I think that's how they have to play it.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Tim has to fight on many fronts these days. It's an unpleasant thing to say, but one way to read this situation is that the people building Apple's AI models have failed. Yeah. And that an exodus and a rebuilding of that team with a new alignment and new management is maybe what they have to do. So be it. But again, it also could be the opposite. It could be that the leadership at the high level, John Gianandrea perhaps, or even above him, to Tim, maybe they've been horribly mismanaged and they've had enough and they're going to leave. And that's also a possible scenario here. But when you get stuff being ripped out of one group and placed in another group with new management because things have gone badly, this stuff's going to happen.